The Job Guys. What the world isn't watching.
What's happening, everybody? The Job Guys back with you one more time. Nitro, Nick right over there. Ryan sitting right over here. It is January 4th, Nick, as we record this, 2024. Pretty crazy to say. Especially crazy when you say rewind 25 years to the day. I remember exactly where I was. I remember everything about this evening. 25 years ago, January 4th, 1999, the Monday Night Wars are maybe as big as ever. And I believe this is the night when you talk about the war. This may be the night people bring up first. You had Mick Foley win the belt on Raw. And then on the other channel, the finger poke of doom. Maybe the most infamous night in the history of WCW. If you ask everybody else on earth, not if you ask the Job Guys.
It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened. You're wrong.
I watched this show in its entirety for the first time in probably 25 years. I don't think this is a good show whatsoever. It is way worse today than it was 25 years ago. That said, I don't have a problem with the finger poke. And over the next hour or so, we will get into it. Nick, I know you feel the same way. Before we break it down and run it back, your thoughts overall on what most people believe is the night that killed WCW.
I don't think it's a bad show at all. I actually think it's a good show. I do like a story is told throughout the entire night. Now,
told poorly, but it's told.
It's told. I mean, there's, people coming off the 98 Survivor Series, and the whole argument there is you cannot argue, Ryan. We ran it back. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Our Survivor Series 98, where The Rock turns and wins the title. You cannot argue that was good wrestling. You cannot argue that wasn't anything more than crash TV until but a story, when we argued this on the show, a story is being told the entire night.
Yep. And there is here. Goldberg gets arrested.
Yes.
And he's trying to get out of jail the entire night. Liz has him framed, as we'll get into, which leads to Hogan becoming the champion in the end. For those that have not seen this and don't know, I'm sure you know, if you are a wrestling fan, you know what this night entailed. WCW had not won the ratings since the night after the debacle of the Halloween Havoc, where they played the main event, because it didn't get shown to about half of the world because the pay-per-view cut off there right at the end of October.
But again, this is the end of WCW here.
Yeah, well, right. That's way worse than this, if you ask me. And right. This is not the night that killed WCW to me. We'll get into it. I see what people didn't like, but I don't. We'll get into it. WCW is still neck and neck. People seem to think revisionist history here, that like they're just getting absolutely housed, and they're losing. But you're looking at both companies, Nick, getting a near 5, if not above 5, every single night. So you're talking over 10 million people per night are watching wrestling. The same thing happens here. It's 5.7 to 5.0 at the end of the night. And then when the NWO has its reformation there, that overrun got like a 6. People wanted to see this. They were interested in this. Now, maybe they didn't like what happened, but they wanted to see this, Nick. So all this stuff about, Mick Foley, 600,000 people immediately changed the channel after Tony Schiavone said what he said. Yes, but people still turned back to WCW by the end of the night. They wanted to see that, Nick. I don't know. I think it's revisionist history, and you have a good line for that, don't you? About the way people think about that today.
Yeah, moving the goalposts. I mean,
say it a couple of times.
Yeah, say it 3 times and it becomes the truth, But and Ryan, the number one criticism of the NWO, in my opinion, is that you keep hearing it got watered down. Too many people in it. It lost its way. Well, what they're doing here is answering that criticism by trimming the fat, to steal their words.
Thank you.
And, condensing the group into a superpower group where every feud is going to mean something because these are all main event players. And you know what? For people like me, I'll say I was ecstatic to see the group back together.
Me too.
I went nuts.
And trimmed.
Yes. I'm not saying I liked all of the trimmings, R.I.P. Kurt Hennig, but, he got trimmed eventually. But it was, we can get into it more. Ryan, I felt like we had at least 6 to 8 months of stories, and not just with one guy. And I'll talk a little bit more if we can on multiple angles as we go here with ways they could have done this. It didn't work out that way. It went into God knows where. I don't know how, but that's WCW,
right. And it's not this night, I think is what you're trying to say here.
Yeah,
the angle they put together at the end of this night was awesome.
It's great.
Did they follow through with it? No, they did not. What they basically did was you had 800 people in the NWO. You had the Wolfpack, then you had Black and
Japan.
White. Too many dudes,
way
too many. And what they did here, they cut it down to 6. Boom. These are our guys. And then they have Goldberg as the foil. Goldberg is going to have to run the gauntlet to get back to Hogan to win the belt. That is a great story. Against all odds, he runs through Luger and Steiner and Buff and Hall and Nash to get to Hogan. That sounds great to me. They didn't end up doing that for what reason I don't understand. We have heard Kevin Nash talk, and he's got his timeline messed up. He says and has said numerous times they would have done that had Goldberg not put his arm through the car window. But that happened 11 months later, Kevin. That happened in December of 99. This is January 4th, 99. They just derailed everything. We know Hall went back to rehab. Buff wasn't healthy yet. And so they went with
Still
Hogan.
Out from a broken neck the previous year.
Right. Yeah, they went with Hogan and Flair. And that makes no sense when you watch this show as well, where he's the president of the company. But this night in particular, there's nothing wrong with how they did this night.
And in giving the belt to Hogan, to me, Nash already had his feud with Goldberg. I screwed you. I took your streak from you. I ended right there's the story. That doesn't need a belt.
Right.
We hadn't seen Luger Goldberg. They will give you Hall Goldberg at the next pay-per-view, which it made sense, stun on a stick or ladder match or something.
Because he got hit with a cattle prod. Yeah.
Steiner Goldberg could have been a big man. I mean, just what I'm saying, into all these to finally chase and culminate with, I don't care at what pay-per-view, Halloween Havoc, Starrcade, he runs through them and beats Hogan again. Remember, the reason why Goldberg does drop that belt to Nash, in my opinion, it was kind of what you said. You were super into Goldberg. He wins the belt, and you're like, well, what do we do now?
Right.
Like he just the streak is all. This gave Goldberg
there was no feud. There was no
story.
nothing. He just fought Hogan out of nowhere to pop a rating.
Yeah,
this is the feud now. Now we have the feud finally, and I think the way they set it up was great. Now we'll get into it. Goldberg's acting is beyond terrible.
That's right. It stinks.
The feud is fine. And you do, okay, Hogan's not going to be there every month. Okay, well, if you're getting to Starrcade, that's 12 months. Okay, every other month he fights the other guy. And it works out. And then he gets to Hogan.
And they even had some, not that it was great, I think the ensuing pay-per-view after Hall, Bam Bam, who had interfered in the Starrcade match, fought Goldberg as maybe a hired thug by the NWO. You've got story here, man.
Yeah, and he can fight other people on the way there, as you just said. Well, let's get into it. And if you've never watched our running backs before, thank you so much for tuning in. We're just going to go over the night a little bit as we just did, but we're going to break this down segment by segment a little bit. And then at the end of the show, we've got a couple of categories to wrap the whole thing up. who won the night, who was the star of the night, the line of the night, the match of the night, all that kind of stuff. And that's how we will finish it off here. So let's get into it. They are in the Georgia Dome. 40,000 people are there. First time they've been in the Georgia Dome since Hogan Goldberg earlier that summer. So here they are again. They got 40,000 there. The advertised match going in was a rematch from Starrcade. It was supposed to be Nash against Goldberg. And Nash had said, you know what? You got screwed. You got screwed. So now I'm going to give you another shot, since Hall came down, hit him with the stun gun, and then
Nash was playing. He was not in on it at this point.
Yes, he was pretending like he was the good guy. And, oh, I'm here to give you another shot, brother, and all this. Right as we get going, Goldberg gets arrested for no reason. All of a sudden, some guy is stalking her, apparently Goldberg. He immediately just goes, we know Liz is full of crap. You know, she's lying. So
that ages well.
Yeah, right. Yeah, blame the victim. Immediately says Hogan is behind it, and he challenges Hogan. God. You know, Hogan, screw you. Right. So then Flair comes out, and he buys the whole thing. We didn't say earlier, they start this show with a 900-year-long segment of Flair, who is the new president of WCW, because
just
he
beat Bischoff
the week before.
Previous week on Nitro for Control, 90 days.
For some reason, doesn't fire Bischoff or anything, but you know, he makes him be Ryan, a commentator.
I watch those. It gets pretty decent because everything he puts Bischoff to do, Bischoff ends up turning it to the NWO's advantage, as you'll see tonight with the announce booth.
That's why you fire him.
In 2 weeks, yeah. But it was just, I thought it's actually a good story because I think the Giant has his final match in 2 weeks on Nitro. Kevin Nash beats him. How does he beat him? Well, Bischoff was demoted from the announce team to setting up the ring team. Bischoff left some shears or wrench out there for Nash, and he was helping purposely set up the ring. So everything Eric is getting done to him by Flair kind of gets flipped on Flair.
Right. It makes your president and your babyface look like a complete boob.
Does.
Good job. Yeah, way to go.
It makes him look, but there is a story, a rhyme to the reason they're keeping Bischoff around, I guess.
Sure. Well, he goes to the announce team. Again, making your babyface look like an idiot. He totally buys into Nash right away. Yeah, Nash, you're fighting Hogan. Instead of giving him the night off. No, he says you're fighting Hogan tonight. We are an hour and a half into this. And after the segment, you get the famous line, Tony Schiavone. Fans, if you're even thinking about changing the channel to our competition, fans, do not. We understand that Mick Foley, who wrestled here one time as Cactus Jack, is going to win their world title. Ha! That's going to put some butts in the seats.
Look at you, giant idiot.
More than anything on this show, I think more than the finger poke, I think this is what people remember from this night, Nick.
And I think that's why they hate it. I think they feel, and here's they hate it. I don't know what the argument is, confuses me. You ruined Mick Foley's moment. Or did you give him 500,000 more viewers for his I don't understand the ruining of the moment, you know.
Just the purpose, I guess.
Yeah, the idea that you're throwing it out there. Well, they were pre-recorded. Well, this wasn't the first verbal shot fired during this war, and it wouldn't be the last, you know. I didn't really have a problem. I didn't tune over. I stayed with my programming because I didn't care about Mick Foley.
No,
it just wasn't for me.
Here's another thing, though. It was a taped show.
It was.
In WWE, it was taped the Tuesday before. They put it on their own website. Breaking news, Mick Foley wins the belt. It'll be shown next Monday. So this wasn't like people didn't know. I know not everybody was looking at WWE.com.
Right.
But everybody knew. They knew already that he had won the belt. So this really didn't do anything.
Yep. I just think this is another way just to slam the company.
Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I don't know, when you're looking at the end of this night, the dudes standing in the ring on one channel, you cannot name me as many dudes on the other channel that I would to stand. I mean, I know you had Austin and The Rock.
Yeah.
But down the list, I mean, yeah, I didn't turn over, but I didn't think it was that bad for WWE as people make it sound out to be.
No, well, it's just funny now because if you fast forward till today, it's the exact opposite. WWE can do no right. The internet and all the writers and everybody takes every single shot they possibly can at WWE. It was the exact opposite back then. It was WCW. This show Raw put on was one of the worst shows I've ever seen. I mean, you had Chyna with her girlfriend on the show. You had Pat Patterson hand Kane a condom. You had Triple H and Steph, everything going on there. What are we doing? They could do no wrong during that time.
And
everything was gold. The exact opposite of today. People would take any shot they could. Was it nice to do? No, probably not, but they were in a war.
But this is the revisionist, Ryan. Like the lower card is, when you watch this so weak in WCW, I felt the same way about WWE. I think it's overblown how big some of these guys back then people thought they were, like Val Venus or Steve Blackman or even Ken Shamrock.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys were not, they're dudes.
Foley.
They're dudes very similar to this era with Roman, and you can say this on the other channel on Nitro too. I'm not going to protect either one. If you weren't aligned with the NWO or fighting the NWO, it was kind of meh, like no one cared in the air. And on this channel, if you weren't with Austin, The Rock, or DX, who cared? You were just a comedy sketch half the time.
Even the Undertaker, which is sacrilegious to say, they're killing Midian during this show.
Nobody was tuning in to watch the Undertaker.
Nobody wants to see Midian.
No,
nobody.
Ever.
And that's what was going on that night. So here we go. Then they did say, which isn't talked about, they do again later in the show. Shivani keeps going at it. He keeps going at him during the Steiner match. He says, Foley's going to win their title again. Ha, ha. And he goes, we're live every week, and they are not. I mean, he's going to be their world champion. They say that later in the show, which you never hear about. You only hear the one clip. And they try to ask Bischoff to say something, and because he's playing his role, he won't talk. So he's just sitting there not talking.
Nice.
Funny moment here. Wrath comes out. I don't know if you listened to the Wrath promo. I don't even remember there ever being a Wrath promo. But he goes, I know you people paid your money to see Wrath drop the nuclear thermal meltdown on the dome. And then he challenges the world, and then Bam Bam comes out. No one cares at all.
But you know what, Ryan, on that with Wrath, breaking just another thing, this NWO split, it does give some guys who were kind of just fat in the NWO. Brian Adams will probably go on with Brian Clark. I think it's some of the stuff, the Chronic stuff is probably the best they've ever. Look at the two of them. Have they ever done anything better?
No, neither one of them.
That's what I'm saying. Like certain guys, again, this angle, it could have led to certain things. I know that's kind of wasn't planned, Chronic, but both their careers do kind of go better with Chronic.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. But Bam Bam, like they brought him in from ECW. They thought because he was a big deal there. They thought people were going to care. They don't.
Might be one of the biggest pushed guys in the history that just wasn't responding at any point. I remember them pushing him in the 80s. He comes back to WWE in the early 90s and gets a push. Wasn't feeling him then. They bring him in here to WCW, and he's immediately put in as one of the top guys feuding with Goldberg and stuff. Just, again, people were like, it's just Bam Bam, man. It was just, again, the guy doesn't suck in the ring. He doesn't suck on just something about him. He's not main event level.
Yeah.
That
said, main events of WrestleMania, Bam Bam.
Bam Bam
1, CM Punk 0. All right. So they go back to Liz, and they realize she's full of crap. They say, oh, you're lying, blah, blah, blah. They set Goldberg free. He says, take me to the dome. I thought it was just across the street. Apparently not. So they get back in the Corsica, and it takes them 20 minutes to get there. So, yeah, there we go. Goldberg says he's screwed. So when Nash comes out, Scott Hall is with him, and they have a big hug and all this.
Which is really weird because, Hall
he just said he was screwed a minute ago.
Hall had a promo, I think, the week before where he was trying to say Nash, or maybe even this week, I can't. But yeah, they were not known to be locked up together, so that's confusing.
Last time he fought was at Halloween Havoc. They fought each other.
But I will tell you, Ryan, if you go back and watch Starrcade and the Nitro after, there are seeds for this. In that final match, Goldberg with, Nash, obviously, the NWO cleans up at Starrcade 98. They do win most of their matches. So they are pushing these guys. The next Nitro, you see Conan lose the television title.
Yep.
Because of Luger. Luger comes down to try to help him, but inadvertently helps the Bagwell and Steiner, who beats him, win the belt. And the announcers are even calling it out, going, what was going on with Luger's help here? It's a little weird to us. Like, he kind of cost him. So you are seeing little plants on this the week before, you know.
So here we go. Hogan comes in, and immediately Nash pushes him. Hogan gets back in his face, does the poke, 1, 2, 3. They pulled the wool over all of our eyes. All of a sudden, the Corsica comes flying up to the arena.
Yeah.
It went 0 to 100 in 15 minutes and got there. Goldberg runs in, goes straight to the ring. He starts wrecking everybody. And then, as you said, Luger then comes out. You think he's helping.
For Luger.
And then he turns. And he nails. Now, I have never heard this. I rewound it 3 times, and it's not bleeped out. Did Tony say, what the F is going on here? Go listen.
I'll have to.
I listened to it 3. I went, wait a minute. Hold on. Beep, rewound it. He goes, what's going on here? When Luger turns. Apparently, I'm the only one on earth to hear it because the censors sure as heck didn't. So, yeah, then they all.
And Luger, I mean, love him or hate him, he had been a poster boy for faces in WCW for 3 years now.
Because when he was in the NWO, he was in the good guy NWO. He was in the Wolf Pack. So they spray paint the belt. NWO was back. I remember loving this. As you said, I thought it was great. I'm like, okay, here we go. Get rid of Stevie Ray. Get rid of Conan. Get rid of all these jokers.
And they do.
Boom.
And
here
they're
we go.
going to. It looks like, and the ring is jam-packed with dudes and dudes I like. The Outsiders, Hogan, Steiner, freaking coming into his own at this point in time, Ryan. I'm loving it. He's one of the best stick dudes out there at this point in time, in my opinion.
I agree.
Buff Bagwell, what a bummer he was even hurt. He looks like $1 million. He is funny as all can be.
Yep.
Even on the outside, he's even a great manager. And then Liz is finally getting some spotlight too. Maybe they're, I don't know if she was going to be part of this big deal. They have a ring of studs.
Yep. And Macho Man came back the week before with Gorgeous George and helped Flair win. So maybe you're going to have something here with Gorgeous George and Liz. I mean, you don't know.
Doesn't show up till April.
Yeah, right. You don't know what the heck is going on. WCW. So there you go. I remember watching this. We did not watch this together. Were you back at school at this point? I was not yet.
I had returned to my apartment in Saginaw.
Yeah, I was still home, and we watched it. I think maybe 5-10 of us got together and watched it. And I remember loving it. We had 2 TVs that night, so we did have both things on. But when this came on, it was turned down Mick Foley. We know he won. Turn the volume up over here.
Right.
And we were all NWO fans. So to us, it does not have that same disdain that everybody else on earth has. And let's talk about that here for the next couple of minutes. Why do you think it is that people say this was the final bullet in the chamber that killed, or this was the first bullet that killed? I don't think so. If you want to talk about that, we can go back a year to Starrcade 97 and then the follow-up to that. Ryan, to me, it was the beginning of the end.
Even you mentioned earlier not delivering a main event and a pay-per-view at Halloween Havoc. That was a bad one,
Hogan Warrior, just all of Halloween
Hogan Warrior was terrible, Ryan. And they just... so many of their feuds had not delivered. Guys had got hurt. This person would start feuding with this guy. There were, for no apparent reason, there were so many things that you could probably key down to. I think more or less this has nothing to do with it. I think the problem is this, and then what follows this, Ryan, is what makes this bad. This isn't bad until you see what comes next, and you're, looking back, you're like, if you look where they're at by the summer from where they were at this finger poke, you got to just be sitting there with glossed over eyes going,
it's like two different companies.
What the hell just happened?
Thing sucks.
Yeah. You look at the ratings here. Nitro that night gets a 5.0. The next night, they actually drew even higher ratings than this night. Almost, it's 4.96. And then the next week, 4.99, 4.87,
so people were looking to see this.
4.99. It changes in February. It starts to slip. They get into the 4s. And then by March, they are in the low 4s. March 7th, 4.4, 4.29. March 21st, 3.95.
Hogan's
when
feuding with Flair.
Hogan and Flair, which you never thought would be a bad thing. Here we are all these years later, and people are like, get these guys off my TV.
Because we'd already seen it.
We'd already seen it, and Flair was being a goof at that point, and Hogan then started to turn back during those matches.
And Nash is feuding with Mysterio, and Hall and Nash are against Mysterio and Conan. It's just these two little guys versus the Outsiders. Bam Bams with Goldberg, and like I said, you can maybe do that with a Nitro main event, but it just, where are you going?
Everything they set up this night is gone.
Right.
It's gone. And again, Buff wasn't ready yet. Hall went back to rehab. Then Nash or Luger is with Liz, but dude, you're looking at April 18th, you're down to 4.0. And then the end of April, March, May, you're in the 3s and not the high 3s. You're already down to the low 3s.
Brett was hurt to start the year.
It went off a cliff.
It did. They didn't follow through with this, Ryan. Nothing made sense. They didn't go through with this. Goldberg doesn't go run through any of these guys. And by the time I think he meets Nash and Steiner, it's in some stupid triple threat match where they're not going to follow the script as bad as that crap was.
Remember that?
Oh, my God. And it was just...
That was like a year and a half later.
Yes, sir. It just... Again, the problem isn't the night. It's what ensues, man.
Right. Well, look at the ratings.
Fine.
Look at these ratings. Through January, they are still in the high 4s, if not 5.0. And then in February, they are still in the high 4s. It's March and the end of February, March, where it falls off a cliff. And that tells you people didn't get pissed off this night and quit watching. It's because there was no follow through on it. That was the problem. Not this night, because I thought this night was good. All right, well, let's do it here. Let's get the ultimate run back right now. All right, Nick, normally we do it in a different order. We're going to start today with the best match of the show because, I mean, there were matches on this show and whatnot, but nobody remembers, nobody talks about them. Does one stand out for you?
We did, because it wasn't about, remember, you had to buy the pay-per-views, Ryan. I don't mean to stop us right here. And this is for the worker fans out there. Go back and check this one out. Rey Mysterio and Billy Kidman versus Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera. Again, did the match really mean anything in the big scheme of things? No, it was just a match. But this is why, again, not all matches are built like this. This was just a match, but you enjoyed it because it was the wrestling that a lot of people like today, the flipping, the flopping, the diving, the high energy moves, the big time. And I thought they put together a great match. Go watch the ending, the drop kick to the back, timed almost perfectly. I don't know if he hit it quite great, but the timing's so much better. It's a great match. I give that match of the night.
I agree. It was not bad at all. Funniest moment of the night. Do you have one? There's a few things.
Bischoff coming to life on the mic.
End. Thank you.
It's the greatest. I put on there.
Hilarious.
He's going in right off the bat. He starts and he talks like the NWO's back. Hogan's our and then he interrupts himself saying,
Willikers.
What the hell is he doing here as Goldberg gets out of the car? It's so great. Get me the police. Get me Kojak.
Kojak. There's one for you old people out there.
It was great, man. Shazam, by golly, gee Willikers. And then the shock stick. Oh, my God, Brian.
I was dying.
And it worked because he played it all night. He wasn't speaking all
Feet up on the desk, not looking at Shivani and Heenan and whoever.
To me, that was the funniest moment. Watch it. Listen, oh my God, it's so freaking great, dude.
And he's making the spray paint noise when they're spray painting. Goldberg is going, psh. He probably did it way too long, but it was funny.
Sometimes the over accentuation, the oversell is, I mean, ask Kurt Hennig if it works. Sometimes it's great.
It was awesome. I absolutely loved it. Good stuff. Line of the night. Don't know if there is much of an argument here. What do you got?
Line of the night. I didn't go with the Foley thing because I knew everybody else.
It's got to be. It is what you remember.
It's the line of the night is Foley. But Hogan calling Goldberg a sexual deviant. I'll let
for no reason. We don't even know because he hasn't asked what he did wrong.
Yeah, we haven't even got the charges delivered, and Hogan's already got him on the internet posted. He can't live within a mile of a school. It's just. Oh my God. It was in Hogan saying it. It's just funny to me. But yeah, the line of the night is the giveaway. Foley's going to win.
Yeah. Ha. That'll put some butts in the seats. That is definitely the line of the night. Let's go with most rewatchable scene. Once again, a lot of these are probably pretty obvious, but
this one, Steiner and Buff promo before Steiner's match.
Oh, dude. Okay.
What
do you like about it?
He is coming. Big Papa Pump is your hookup. Holla if you hear me. He's rhyming now. He's as close to superstar as you're probably in his delivery because it's rhymey, but it's kind of not. It doesn't flow as well, but he still gets it across. I love, and then Buff is walking around making fun, looking at my abs, and doing all this. The two of them, if you get a chance and you go back and watch the Finger Poke of Doom, WWE missed the boat on this freaking guy, Scott Steiner. This guy could have been, in my opinion, and who am I? I could be wrong, but he could have been huge, Ryan.
More on that in a minute. What has aged the best and the worst from January 4th, 1999?
I put best here, and because we do this all the time, it's such a cheap shot at when we do the older ones. What's aged the worst? Gimmicks. What's aged the best? Some of these gimmicks. Jericho as a heel during this time. This might be Jericho's finest performance, in my opinion. Him with Ralphus. Everything the ridiculous enough of his character, his 1 foot pin when he puts 1 foot. Yeah, but Jericho is phenomenal at this point. This or the era when I'm the best at what I do. Those to me are his greatest moments. I think the list comes in third to me, but those were the two that really set out Big Papa Pump and Buff Bagwell, their gimmicks.
I'll say my worst moment since you went best. Goldberg's acting at the beginning is really bad, and he just goes on and on and on without asking, "Hey guys, what did I do?" You would think that might be a question you want answered. Okay,
sure. I put the Nitro staged parties were terrible. Those
that was really bad, and it took a while.
Oh, they cut away, and it's freaking awful. But I'm sorry, what was the other one? Nitpicking?
Yeah, nitpick.
Yeah,
I got a huge one. It's more than a nitpick here.
Backstage segments, I'm going to go right with you. Said the ones they could have been taped, they could have been reshot. My nitpick is the Goldberg stuff. Like you got to shoot that again. It doesn't look good. It could have been even bigger had they done that and had Goldberg came across a little bit more believable. Had the officers, maybe had. I mean, you're trying to get Liz on. Wait a minute, you said a Coke machine and you bought a Pepsi,
right? Pepsi machine.
Okay, that's your evidence against her. Like, come on.
Yeah,
man.
You're free.
Yeah, like like that. The backstage segments could have been shot better, in my opinion.
My nitpick is huge. They don't build the main event enough. For everybody saying this ruined, they don't build this. This was the biggest match they could have possibly had. Nash, Hogan. They have been building this since July 1996. You get Hogan walking out. Hogan gets the match. Nash cuts a 2-second promo where Flair gives him the thing. Throughout this night, They should be saying the NWO is imploding. The two leaders are fighting each other. This is what we wanted to see in WCW. The NWO is going to crash. This is huge. They did none of that. None of it. This show is terrible, Nick. It's so bad. They should have been pumping this as this is the match you have been waiting 2.5 years to see. They did none of it.
Ryan, they
did that. Probably would have pissed people off even more because they didn't get the match in the end. But my gosh, this is Hogan
Rock. WCW.
This is
They
did none of it. And just sitting there, I'm sitting there going, Shivani, blow this up. I mean, they did more ripping on Foley. As much as I don't care about that, they did more of that than going, you've been waiting to see this for 2.5 years. We are finally going to see it tonight in front of 40,000, in front of the largest crowd ever. Yeah. Nothing.
Vince McMahon runs WCW in 96. WWE goes out of business.
Yeah, probably.
If he's got that NWO and that movement and that going on, I don't think because it is, thank God, to those little mistakes. Starting again with what me and you say, the Sting Hogan match.
Yeah,
that keeps WWE the lifeline.
And it just downfalls and crumbles and crumbles and crumbles till they couldn't get out of their own way.
Right.
Hottest take of the night.
I've said it before. Hottest take. That we could have had so much. That this could have been so freaking good, Ryan. I wrote this on here.
Yep,
and I've said this before. Giant was forced to face Nash in a loser leaves town match. That match drew huge ratings on coming up on the Nitros. Conan getting kicked out. This gives Conan a new direction. You know, you with the Mysterio, Kurt Hennig. You got a guy there that could feud with the NWO. Norton, Adams, even a guy like Scott Norton. Buster break time, man. If you can't find something to do with him, release him. Get him off the salary roll. You got feuds. Brian Adams goes on with Chronic. That's just the NWO black and white. I haven't even talked about Goldberg and his feuds. Or DDP now, and we've circled back. Maybe we could get DDP Nash, DDP Luger, DDP some of these other guys. And you've got, I don't know, we just missed out, Ryan, on so many good angles, so much good wrestling. We haven't even talked that Bret Hart and Sting not there coming back. We've got them for matches. Ryan, just with the guys I've named. If you told me to name 5 big names in WWE at this point, I'm down to like the Road Dogg at 6. Because you are, right? I mean, it's Rock, Austin,
Foley at this point, and then
at this point,
Undertaker, and he's really bad. Triple H is coming up.
Kane, okay. At this point, it's just not so many good matches, and they screw it up. That is my hottest take on this. They screw this up. It could have been amazing.
Kind of mentioned it earlier, but my hottest take is this could have worked, and they screwed it up by going a different direction. Of course, Hogan has to fight somebody, and he ended up fighting Flair.
Not everybody.
They didn't end up having Hogan and Goldberg do anything. We finally did get Hogan and Nash at Road Wild in August. Hogan's wearing yellow and red, and is back to 1986 Hogan.
Nash is the bad guy.
This could have worked if Goldberg runs the gauntlet.
Yes.
It could have worked. And obviously that's not the direction they went. And the whole company went down. And then by the summer, the best thing they had going was the Rap is Crap guys. That's the best thing they had at that point, which I think is hilarious and I like it. But if it's your best thing, that's probably not good for your company.
That's something you enjoy coming to see, not something you come to see.
Right, exactly. So, this could have worked. I thought it was fine. I thought they did it. You got trash thrown in the ring, and people say, oh, it's because people were really mad. No, it's because they wanted Goldberg to win and they were hot, and they screwed it up. There you go. Best moment of the night. What do you got?
The reboot of the NWO. I'm looking, if we're just talking that night, Ryan, you're asking me to stand this night alone. Dude, I'm standing in my apartment. I can see myself at Normandy. Is the name of the apartment complex. I'm standing.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, I was
Normandy. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, not the beaches. I wasn't like Saving Private Horse as I finished watching this. But
I got to get out there, brother.
Help the Germans. But yeah, the NWO reuniting into this knit, tight, packed group that is full of world champions and top-notch players. It was awesome.
I have the same, painting the belt again. I remember when he painted the belt, the first, it was kind of all screwed up, and then he painted it the second time when he beat Luger again, and it was really screwed up. He painted it good. It looked good. I was like, yeah, we're back.
Nash deja vu.
Yeah. He says deja vu, which could be a good or bad thing, depending on what side of the fence you're on.
At least it's not something political with Nash, because everybody's always scratching their head after he speaks.
Right.
Man, like, what the hell, man?
Mars Shot reading Mein Kampf. What?
Attica.
Yeah. Painting the belt to me, and we're back and we're trimmed, and this is going to work.
Awesome.
I thought that was great. Who won the night, Nicholas?
I got two. And so it's two different groups of people, and it's WWF and WCW. In the WCW, the NWO fans won the night. And I think, again, that night, the WCW fans won because what we thought we had coming. The fans that were there for the NWO, that wanted to see a slimmed down version.
They stuck around for another month and a half. That
wanted to see not only a slimmed down version, wanted to see this story come to an end. Which stories? Just the Horsemen, the NWO, WCW versus WWE, Bloodline. They can't seem to end stories anymore. I mean, if the Mega Powers was written today, it'd be a 5-year story. These things, people, maybe let's get some closure. Let's run this gauntlet. Let's have some great feuds, some great matches. I think the WCW fans, and especially the NWO WCW fans, won. And on the other side, Mick Foley.
Yeah, Foley definitely won, if we're counting. Because he became a main guy, and he only had the belt for like 2 weeks, and he loses it again. But no, he definitely became a player.
Because of something that happened on that show, too. It got people to tune over.
Who won Nitro? Scott Steiner won Nitro.
Okay.
He comes out with Hogan. When Hogan left, he became like the head of NWO Black and White, but that's like being in charge of you and me. Like, who gives a rip? Well, he came out with Hogan, made him a main man. And then the very last thing you hear on the show is him in the camera. After he says deja vu and whatever, then it's Steiner for life. The last person you see and hear is Scott Steiner. And this, by putting him in this group with Hall, Nash, Hogan, Luger, Scott Steiner, he's now elevated to their level. And Scott Steiner
just put a belt on him. They just put the TV belt on him.
And he was a big old jacked up dude who could wrestle. At this point, he was slowing down, but he used to be able to, best worker in the world. But people wanted to see him and Goldberg right away. The two jack dudes, we wanted to see it immediately.
And we wanted to see power moves. We didn't want to see him hitting hurricanranas on Goldberg. We wanted to see which one could
which he could do. Which he could do. He was the originator. The first person I ever saw do a hurricanrana.
Might have been there.
It was him. Yeah.
Okay.
Legacy of the night. What do you got? You got a legacy here from?
Yeah, it's my line. If you say a lie 3 times, it becomes the truth. If you just keep saying over and over that this is the worst show, this is the downfall of WCW, then I guess we all believe it, right? Even though it's not true. It's not, right, Ryan. The WCW, you can put it on there as a moment that didn't work out, that didn't yield results.
Right.
But this night is not a bad night for WCW television. It's not a bad night for WCW fans, and it's not a bad night for what you thought would be the future of WCW. But I think people got mad at the Foley spoilage, and that kind of grew over time. I think there's people today that weren't even alive. They're like, I'm upset he gave away Foley's title. Like,
there's a lot of that.
You weren't even freaking there, man. Like, you were putting decals on your big wheel. Like, I mean, like, it's like. And you're upset about this, and it got him more views, but I think that added to the hate. They tried to ruin Foley, and then because of, we look at what happened, Yeah, people just, this is the worst thing ever. And I think they just kept saying it, and we all believe it now.
You just kind of mentioned it. Why do you think, when did it all turn to you? Since this isn't the day we think, now it may have helped jump off the cliff for sure with what happened. For you, last thing, and we'll get out of here. What would you say is the breaking of the dam? To me, the Starrcade 97 is when it did start slipping, but they were still hot, and they're hot here. They have 40,000 people here. When, for you, though, if you were to pinpoint one thing and say, this is what killed WCW, what do you got? And it doesn't have to be a moment. It could be a thing. It could be booking. It could be whatever.
I'm with you. The original, like the dam breaking, is Starrcade 97. That is like, I think the point of from which no return, Goldberg and Bret Hart both go down. And like at that point, because you don't have the other dudes anymore. Hogan's not there. Hall is not, the NWO is pretty much done. I think losing, those are your dudes, Goldberg and Hart. Those are your two biggest guys.
You're talking a year from now.
Goldberg
kicks Bret in the head. Next week, Goldberg punches through a window.
Because I don't think there's anywhere WCW since the 96, 2000 is the worst year by hands down. Yeah. It's just awful.
Right.
And I think had they had Goldberg for the whole year, had they had Bret Hart for the whole year, had they had run these cycle, I just think that to me is the end. Like it's bad. Jeff Jarrett's your main dude now. It's over. It's over. Yeah. I'm not watching Jeff Jarrett.
It just so in that the NWO trying to be the leader of the NWO.
That to me is like, and again, I don't think that's the only thing, and I don't even know that that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I think that just to me, like at that point, it's over.
And it's a whole year later.
And
they also lost Russo at that same time. And say whatever you want about him, but it was better than the alternate. They lost Bret, Goldberg, and Russo within a couple weeks span, and that was it.
Just done. But I think right there is the culminate. Like it's done and the other program is running on full steam.
Yeah. Yep. And I agree with you. I think the hole on the boat initially is Starrcade 97, 100%. And not just the finish of that match, which is the worst part, but the whole show was bad. And then they have some other things that happen. We never get the split up of the NWO. We never get Nash against Hogan, giving away Goldberg Hogan without any build. Then there's nowhere left for Goldberg to go after he wins the belt. They tried to reboot it here, pissed people off. Then you get more Flair Hogan. So it just turned into the old guy show. And then what you mentioned, you get Russo back. You get a little momentum. They rebuild the NWO. And Bret's gone. And Goldberg's gone.
Bret and Goldberg was a sweet feud, I thought. I thought that was awesome.
I did too. I was in.
The plate under his, that really got me jacked for that feud, brother.
Well, Nick, appreciate it, buddy. As always, hard to believe, man. This was 25. Every time we do one of these, you're like, 25 years ago. Are you kidding me? I remember everything about this. Like, thanks for watching. If you are watching, please hit like. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already. And leave us your thoughts. There are a lot of people out there that are going to disagree with us. There are not too many people on this earth that don't absolutely hate what this did. Sorry. I think the show stinks watching it again. But not the end. But not the end. I love the end. So tell us what you thought in the comments below if you can. Thanks for watching, everybody. And until next time, job guys out.
Pleasure's all yours, Bucky boys.